What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this episode I do not intend on disappointing you guys anymore. So what I did was I tested our test bench system for the overclocks of 5 gigahertz and just making sure that everything was cool, the temperatures were good, and the AIO was working. So now we can actually attempt to overclock at 5.2 gigahertz. And as you can see, this is the system. This is again 8086k. We have the Maximus Hero. I don't have the formula yet, and yeah, I'm pretty excited. So I just wanted to give you guys a close-up of the system. So what we have here, starting off with the power supply, 750 watt bronze, plenty enough for this overclock. And we have a 1080 Ti Gigabyte Extreme and the 8086k Maximus Hero, 3600 megahertz DDR4 RAM, and the Thermaltake AIO cooler. Okay, so we have now booted into the BIOS. The first thing I'm gonna do is overclock the memory since it's at 2133 megahertz. So we are going to enable the XMP profile, which is 3600 megahertz, and we are gonna save this configuration. So now we're back in the BIOS with 3600 megahertz and the memory frequency. Let us check the XMP DRAM voltage, which is at 1.35. The last thing I am gonna do is overclock the DRAM frequency, achieving the same timings at 3733. This is just a test and hopefully it works. So for now I'm gonna overclock the CPU core clock speeds. I'm gonna start with 5 gigahertz and then we'll go from there. So for the settings, we want the multi-core enhancement to be disabled, and we want to sync all cores to 50. Now 50 multiplied, or should I say the core ratio multiplied to the BCLK frequency, is the result of your core clock speed, which is in this case 5 gigahertz. AVX instruction core ratio negative offset. So what this does is during AVX loads, which is more how do I say this, it's more demanding for the CPU. So in such workloads we want to be able to set an offset so that it can throttle down by 300 megahertz off of the clock speed. So in this case I'm gonna put 3, and that will help with stability in AVX workloads. So the next thing we want to do is to disable SVID support, especially when we're overclocking. Then when we go to external Digi plus power control, this is where the load line calibration is. So we want to use 5 or 6. If you go to 7, you will have lower voltage groups. However, you will also have your voltage shoot up pretty high compared to stock voltages, which is okay in some cases, but for our needs right now, we will be fine with level 5 or 6, which in this case I will do 6. And that should be, yes, that's all we're gonna touch in this case. Power management. We always want our power management settings to be, let's just say we don't want our processor to throttle down. So we are going to set all of these power settings to maximum. So that is it for power management, I believe. Oh, here. So the core cache current limit, we also want this to max. So just input any number and it should give you the maximum automatically. What else is there? Okay. The minimum possible CPU cache ratio. So we're gonna put 42. In this case, you can always clock this higher. Actually, let's do 44. There we go. And the CPU voltage. Oh, adaptive voltage. We want to disable this as well. We don't want any sort of throttling to go on when overclocking, especially when we're doing benchmarks. So let's do manual. Let's start with 1.35, and that should be it for the BIOS settings. We'll reboot and go in Windows. Okay, so we are now in Windows, and as you can see we have Cinebench open, and we will now try and see what our multi-score is and see our temperatures. Okay, so 1636. Great. So since the maximum temperature was below 80 degrees, I don't want to go above or close to 90, especially on benchmarks, unless of course it was for a very short duration. So let's reboot and tweak the BIOS even further. Let's try 5.1. Okay, so we're back. I have the CPU at 5.1 gigahertz right now. On idle, it's running below 40 degrees at 36 degrees Celsius. I saved my overclocking profile because if in case this doesn't work or crashes and we need to, for whatever reason, clear the CMOS, at least I don't have to go through that whole process again. So let's see what this scores. So we have 1655 at 5.1 gigahertz. Everything seems to be working fine, so let's go with 5.2. Okay, so we're back and I have the CPU at 5.2 gigahertz, and I overclocked the memory just a little bit to 3800 megahertz. So let's run the Cinebench. $1,700. That's the number I want. Perfect. So now that I'm completely satisfied with 5.2 gigahertz, but I do want to try 5.3. I highly doubt it's gonna boot, but it's worth a shot. So let's try that. Okay, so now we have it at 5.3 gigahertz. A while ago, I was having blue screens just starting Cinebench. So what I did was I ramped up the voltage to 1.375, and hopefully that does the trick, just to make this one run. And if it does, well, then we're gonna have to go through Prime 95. So let's see what our score will be, if it even finishes. Immediately. 1.4 volts at 5.3 gigahertz. This is my last attempt on this. I was totally satisfied with 5.2 at 1.35 volts. But if we can get this going, that would be great. Fingers crossed. Nope. Blue screen. Oh no, it just froze up on me. Here is the overclock settings I have for the GPU. It's very, very mild. Nothing too crazy. And the reason being is this is going to be my pretty much daily usage settings. So I have the power limit at 124, a little bit of core voltage. All these settings should not hurt the GPU at all, especially with the temperature that it's running. At full load it was running below 60 degrees. Alright, so now we're moving on to a Firestrike benchmark. Hoping to hit 25,000. Just a little over, which is great. Thank you so much guys for watching again. We successfully did 5.2 gigahertz, and although the temperatures weren't great, it's fine because we're only doing it for benchmarking purposes. Just a heads up to everyone, this is not a 24/7 overclock setting at all, and especially with these temperatures. It could be if I deleted the CPU and if our temperatures were cool enough, but that's gonna be another video in the future. I'm gonna delete this at one point, and maybe a custom loop, we'll see, and hopefully we can achieve 5.3 gigahertz. That would be a real goal right there. So yeah, again, thanks for watching guys. Please like my channel, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.